Hello, everyone, and welcome to Authentic Conversations. I am Amarelis.
And I'm Susan.
And if this is your first time joining us, thank you so much for being here today. In Authentic Conversations, Susan and I gather together. We love to have a little bit of conversations about life, energy, being in the moment. We have our meditations in our YouTube channel, and you can find us on YouTube or podcast or Spotify. So, welcome everyone. If you're joining us again, thank you for coming back. How are you, Susan?
Honestly, I'm good. We just, before we clicked on the mic, we took I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes to just settle in silence and breathe. And it's such a lovely reset. I mean, before that, there was all this chaos about technology. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute, let's just center and focus. And, it's so important to give ourselves permission to take that pause.
Yes. Giving ourselves the permission to take the pause.
Yeah.
That's a big one, Susan. I was thinking about that this morning too, about sometimes we create chaos to feel the energy. How
Yeah.
about that?
Yes, I love the idea of that because we don't just allow ourselves to, be in the moment. And, sometimes we feel like we need to create the chaos to avoid the stillness or the silence because, it's hard to take that pause. It is hard to take that pause. And there's always things that will need to be done, and there will always be time to get things done, and all the things that we create in our mind that need to be done don't always need to be done. Sometimes they need to be allowed, allow it to happen. You're like, I have to push, create chaos, chaos, chaos. If I'm not doing something, I'm not worthy, or I'm no good, or I'm lazy, or, whatever the stories were from your childhood or your family's generational, history.
Yeah, the stories that we tell ourselves. So I had a situation last night. I had set a goal to leave at a certain time from work.
Mhm.
And my job requires that there is no end time, right? So I too have to be accountable to when am I going to leave? Because then I can literally, I'm always the helper and I love to help by setting our boundaries, right? Because then I'm burning myself out and then I'm never getting home on time and I'm not present for my family and then I'm tired. So in the midst of that, right when I'm about to leave, I don't know if I created the chaos or
Well, let's talk through it.
so I got a text message and next door, everything on my side was good. We have two properties and there was a situation on the other side that hadn't been taken care of.
So
And
why is that yours?
um yeah, I'm the manager on duty. So we're I went over to help my colleague and make sure that she's okay because I am the manager on duty. And it we had to make a couple of phone calls to make sure that we took care of the situation. And this morning I found out everything was great. Things so worked out and the people that were thought we were coming didn't show up. So everyone, the hotel was fine. But in that process, just because of what the work that we do, right? And our work is everywhere. A lot of our audience and I myself, we always think that this work has to be when you're in church or when you're in the yoga studio or when, you know, how do you start transferring this every single day?
It's 24/7. This
Right.
work is 24/7. And, the awareness, the self-awareness, the boundaries, the creation of self. So I want to go back to one thing that you said. You said we had to make a couple of phone calls. Mm, The person in charge of the property where the situation was had to make a couple of phone calls. You were there as a supporting cast. So did you, deliberately insert yourself and pick up some of that instead of just offering support and guidance? Because here's one thing that, I refer back to in my own thinking often, right? Am I rescuing someone, or am I standing beside them and holding space for them while they rescue themselves? So do I need the validation that I'm worthy by stealing someone else's power? Or do I stand next to them while they bloom or blossom or step into their own power? And that's a very big piece because we're fixers, we're doers, and we're fixers. And I'm not saying that that's the circumstance with you, but it's just a reflective piece to look back on, because you ask yourself, did I create the chaos? Did you insert yourself into the chaos?
No. And in all honesty, right? It's okay to,
Yes.
because we're always talking about this, and in this, in our podcast, we're using our life as a reference so that our audience can understand what we're talking about, right? And we're talking about being in the moment and the energy that we are the creators of our energy and our environment, right? So if we believe that we can create the world that we want to have, it's all about the energy that we're sending out to the universe. So when I start to hear myself sound like a broken record, where I'm like, I'm tired and I don't like this and I don't like, when do you start pulling back and going, which part of this do I have control? I have no control of the weather. I have control of where I work. I can either leave or stay. And how bad is it?
How
Because
bad
it
is it
might,
really? Or what am
right.
I noticing? So I think that the jump in, you ask yourself, when do you start to ask yourself the question about it? So you hear the broken record, and the answer to that is as soon as you hear the broken record, because that's the moment the awareness hits. We can complain about how tired we are and how, but until we recognize that as a pattern or we see that as an obstacle. So as soon as you recognize it, that's when you start to check out all of the other perspectives. If I look at it from this way, or if I look at it this way, or if I notice things other than what I'm paying attention to all the time, there's always good stuff there. There's always the other side of the spectrum or the other side of the scale. It's just what we're paying attention to becomes our focus. And when it's negative energy or stealing our energy or, exhausting our energy, then we have to ask ourselves, what is it that I can do that will feed my energy or fuel my energy or, create better use of the energy I have. So as soon as you're noticing, you're already in the process of starting to shift it.
Yeah. So we go back to shifting our process and boundaries. Can we talk a little bit about boundaries?
Mhm.
What if I'm someone that's never heard this word, Susan? How do you help someone understand that?
So I guess a clear note in boundaries, is who am I doing this for? Is this something that's helping me, that's lifting me up, that's changing me? Or am I doing this for someone else out of obligation or, for validation of worth or, so creating good, healthy boundaries not only helps you, but it helps the people that have been abusing your boundaries because, they also need to shift if they're taking advantage of people or, let's go back to your work situation. So you're a problem solver. There's problems at work 24/7, which means that you could work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week and never walk away because there will always be something else.
Mhm.
But the flip side is work the only, important thing in your life? Like, are you dedicated 100% of the time to your work? And the answer should be no, because you have other facets or aspects of your life. So, there's certainly work is a percentage of it. And while you're there, you give 100%, but there's a reason why someone else comes on to take the next shift. And if you stay and you undermine their power, then, yeah, they're going to sit back and let you continue to do all the work.
If you're not having the right people around you to kind of point it out to you. So I am blessed to have you and others that
Same.
when I don't want to hear what I want to hear, it's like, Amaryllis, are you making sure that you, like you just said right now, like, are you supporting or are you kind of like feeding this ego
Mhm.
of look at me, I can take care of all these things.
That's right. That's right.
So how do we become aware of that when we maybe are not supported? I mean, hopefully by this video, they're being heard and hearing themselves and kind of like going, am I doing that?
Right. Am I allowing people to walk all over me? Am I allowing people to take advantage of me for the sake of people pleasing, or even things like, gaslighting and narcissistic relationships, right? They are
Okay, so
all
what's gaslighting?
so I don't know, it's a very good question. Gaslighting is where somebody sets you up, where, it didn't happen the way that you perceived it happened, but they'll talk you out of that. You know what I mean? You're like, this is what I saw and heard. And, people will talk you out of that to benefit them, to make you feel like you're losing your mind. So, so it's a boundary thing. What you know what you experienced, and you know what you felt, and no one can take that away from you. Now, it might not be the same experience or feeling that someone else had in that moment, but you have to own what is yours and not allow other people to take that from you. That's a boundary.
Okay, so you know what you know. So this is going back to our lessons that we talk about loving ourselves,
Mhm.
right? Being centered with ourselves and then having our higher power that the answer is always back to us. You don't have the answer for me. I want you to have the answer for me. But at the end of the day, what my values are and what I believe for myself, Amarelis, is what counts because that's what makes me feel good. If that gut feeling, if I feel loved and I feel good and empowered, I should follow that. But if there's something that's telling me this inkling feeling that is like, when every time I'm with this person, they're saying things and I don't feel like it's completely true, there's just something here.
Or I don't feel supported.
I'm
Yeah.
not feeling supported, or they turn things around always, but it makes me feel like I'm the one that's at fault or I'm not supporting them. You can talk it out, but at the end of the day, this little conversation that you're just having with yourself is right there.
Here's what I call it. I call it the nagging, gnawing, knowing. Right? There's something nagging at you. There's something gnawing at you. There's something that just doesn't feel right, and you know it. You're not sure exactly what it is or why it is, but pay attention to that, and that will start on the seeker's path to figuring out what it is that you have going on. You can't figure out what the other person has going on. That's their stuff. But it can help you figure out what you have going on in order to shore up your boundaries. Guaranteed, shore up your boundaries with someone who's gaslighting you, or a narcissist, or someone who ghosted you. Like, don't be so desperate to reconnect with someone who doesn't want to be in your space. Like, those are boundaries, and those are really important. And when you start to recognize those, you'll be grateful for the experience, the uncomfortable experience that got you the knowledge, the connection with your knowing that allows you to move forward. So this week's meditation was about, are you evolving or revolving?
Mhm.
Evolving or revolving. right? So evolving is slow, steady process towards, better versions of yourself. So you have a very great version of yourself right now. You really do. I mean, you have the opportunities that lie ahead of you. You have all of the things that you've learned, and you're here, present, in your version. But like the world, right, things continue to evolve or unfold. So if you are continuing to make, albeit small movements in clearer thinking or feeling more powerful or a better sense of self or a direction that inspires you, you're evolving. And, evolution is a process over time. If you're in the midst of a revolution, if you're revolving, right? Revolving means you are just spinning in a circle. You're spinning in a circle. And we all have this, our revolution is our discomfort, and the evolution comes from that. So you asked earlier, like, how do I know, like, when it's time to pay attention to something? When you're tired of spinning around the same direction, spinning around the same issue, spinning around the same thing, right? Then it's time to level up. I've spun this about as far as I can spin it. I can't live like this anymore. I can't think like this anymore. I can't feel like this anymore. Evolutionary.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when you make the decisions whether I'm going to wake up today and be happy and be here in this moment. And whatever comes to me, I have a choice. I have a choice. I have a choice of what time I go in and what time I leave. And if I decide to stay for an extra hour, then I chose that extra hour. Or I could easily say, hey, I'm sorry, but I'm just about to leave. Let's get you on the phone with some people. These are the steps that I think you need to do. And then
Or
you,
if this was my situation, here's
right,
what I would do. And you leave it at that. They get to decide, just like you get to decide how you're going to feel when you go to work every day.
right,
You
right.
get to decide, while you're there, how you're feeling. You get to be in charge of your own productivity. You get to feel good about it when you walk away, no matter what the situation is, because maybe the next person needs that challenge to move into their evolution, to evolve.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's fascinating and it's fabulous. And we have to be less emotionally attached to outcomes and more aware of how we're processing things and what we're paying attention to. And you're right, conversations with people who understand. Right? Conversations with people understand. And if you can't have conversations with people who understand, click on podcasts with people who understand or read a book that might lend you clarity. Grab a book off the shelf that's calling your name. I mean, there's plenty of great books on everything. um yeah, click on something to start the process of thinking differently, of seeing things from a new perspective.
And then those people that you need and to support you will show up.
100%, because when you start talking their language, they're already around you. You're just not talking their language. If you're talking one language and they're talking another, there's no need. But as soon as you start realizing and remembering, because again, the knowing is the remembering. It's like we have it all inside of us. That's why it's gnawing at us. That's why it's this nudge, it's gnawing, it's remembering.
Yes. It's it's hard, guys, but it's also there. And when you
Rewarding.
seek it, you will find it because it's right there for you. So if you found this channel, follow us, listen to our little podcast. We are here to just keep reminding our audience you're not alone. You have support. Join us on our Thursday meditation nights. They're free. It's via Zoom. We're going to continue to put that out there. We are not worried about how many people are joining us. We know that if one or two or four come, they will gather and we will support them. And the same thing with this channel and this podcast. We just want to share the light because sometimes
The light.
we think, yes, we just want to share the look at that light. Oh, we just forget that there is somebody out there who really needs to hear this, Susan. And that's my calling. This has been our calling in this. And this is where authentic conversation comes from. So we're wrapping it up today again with love, light, and healing energy for everyone out there who's listening. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. And feel free to contact us if you have any questions. I'm susanjcooney@gmail.com, and I can put you in touch with Amarellis. If we had to spell it all out, it might take a while. But yeah, no, we, more than happy to, to continue to create space for new perspectives. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great and blessed day.